Alrighty, so today we are going to do something I did before and kind of a bit of a throwback in terms of the 2020 COVID shortened season and also a little bit of last year. And that, of course, is splitting the review into two parts after all the game is finished. So in part one, I'll look at the first 8 games, and then tomorrow I'll do the next 6 games, or not just the next 6 games, but the final 6 games that wrapped up in terms of match week number 30. And as I said, as we wind down to the regular season with about a month before decision day is going to happen, there's definitely some big games that came out of this week, and that after what we saw from this week, it looks like, at least in the Eastern Conference, there is kind of a small gap that is developing between teams that is above the red line and teams below the red line. But in terms of the Western Conference, that is not the same case. It feels like in the Western Conference, it is still a little bit open, especially in terms of those playoff races and also the battle for home field advantage in the top 4 standing of the Western Conference. But we start off with the first match between Montreal versus Columbus, and for Columbus, they probably should have won this game because they were 2-0 up in this one, scored 2 goals in quick succession to really stun this Montreal team, and then the red card happened. And that red card basically changed everything, and also a combination of bad luck did came in the way of the Columbus crew too, because both of the goals that they conceded was all off of deflection. But in the first half, just 7 minutes in, Pantemis did deny Cucho from long range before he denied Cucho again, this time from close range. So I'm surprised to see Cucho Hernandez definitely feeling early in this one. But it was a good start for Columbus, who looked to try to get the early lead. Pantemis then denied Mensah, who tried to head it in, and then the game kind of took a little bit of a turn, because, you know, as much as the crew were the better team, this is when Montreal kind of woke up. Room would then deny Toy from close range, as, again, Montreal looked like they were now the one that's threatened to take the lead. Toy had attacked in there in the front post, but he hits it right to Eloy Rome, and yeah, you know, for Mason Toy, that's definitely one that he would love to have back because of how he had a great opportunity to tap it in there. Miller then heads it just wide from the corner before Room would deny Mihajlovic from close range, and again, Montreal was really hungry for that opening goal, and they're trying to of course get well, actually, I don't know why I wrote right on the doorstep of goal. I meant right on the doorstep of halftime in this one, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Mihajlovic, oh yeah, he should have scored in this. Like, he had a free header from the doorstep of goal, and with just kind of almost an MVP caliber season that Georgi Mihajlovic had. I mean, I know he probably isn't going to win the MVP this season, and that, you know, that injuries problem that he had in the middle of the season really kind of derailed his MVP race. But there's no doubt he's the MVP of this Montreal team, and knowing the fact that while he is more of a playmaker than a goal scorer, he has scored some big goals, and this is one that, again, you know, he had a free header. You would definitely bank on the fact that he's going to bury that one in, even though it's come from his hand, and he somehow puts it right to Eloy Rome. And it turns out to be a costly miss, because in the 66th minute, Columbus would take the lead. It's Jonathan Mensah scoring from Maria and Diaz to make it 1-0 in favor of the crew. And I'll tell you what, Jonathan Mensah, he is a guy that hasn't scored a lot of goals throughout his crew career, but these last couple of years, it's been kind of different. He's been more lethal in terms of goal scoring, which is something that you know, he's never known for, because, you know, he is a center back. But as I said, he has definitely scored more goals in these last couple of years than what we've seen in the first couple of years that he was with the Columbus crew. And then just 2 minutes later, Lucas Arian would get on the score sheet, as he scored here from Cucho to tie the game up, or actually not tie the game up, but give Columbus a 2-0 lead. So it's kind of interesting that Zarian gets the goal and Cucho basically gets the assist, because you would think that it would be the other way around, but that's not the case in this one. But there was no doubt that sold-out crowd at Stade Saputo, they were stunned, because Montreal completely imploded in a span of 3 minutes. And again, up to that point, I think besides the first 13 minutes, they were the better team. And next thing you know, they find themselves 2-0 down in this game. But they did get a lifeline, because in the 76th minute, Luis Diaz would get a straight red here. And yeah, this was just dumb from Luis Diaz. I mean, it was clearly a kick out he did to Kai Kamara there. Originally, he got a yellow card of it, but when they go to VAR to see that Diaz basically kicked out Kamara there, yeah, that is definitely going to be a straight red. And this is why, in the age of VAR, you cannot get away with that. Like, cameras, of course, are watching, and that was just really dumb from Diaz there. And now all of a sudden he put his team down to 10 men with the last 14 minutes of the game, and that what turns out to be a big factor too, because Montreal really started to press for one back, and they do get one back in the 88th minute as Victor Wanyama would score for Majevic to make it 2-1 in favor of Columbus. Now, again, this one took a wicked deflection, but that's kind of the thing about Montreal this season, and kind of the thing that all good teams has. I mean, they create their own luck, and that they're probably a little fortunate that it kind of deflected in, but they wouldn't care. They're back into this game, and then it looked like Wanyama was going to score even a spectacular goal too, as he decided to go on his bike, but just puts that one wide after there was just a chaos in the box. Like, Montreal was knocking on the door of Columbus. They were just hanging on for dear life in this last couple of minutes and into stoppage time. And I even wrote momentum was all with Montreal and Columbus. They were looking to be on the ropes, and in fact, in the 5th minute of stoppage time, they basically fell off that ropes because Montreal would ties the game up. It's Zachary Brogiot coming off the bench in this game, scoring from Cruzeiro to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And again, it came off a deflection, a little bit fortunate for Montreal, but again, that's what all good team has. All good teams have their lucky moment, and that's definitely one of them there. And that, in the end, Montreal able to salvage a 2-2 draw out of this game. The shots in this one, believe it or not, there were 27 shots compared to the 11 that Columbus had. Yeah, Montreal really put on a clinic throughout this game in front of goals. 10 shots on goal compared to 5 that Columbus had. 8 shots off target compared to 4 that Columbus had. 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that the Crew has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession. And, again, overall, I don't know if either of these teams will be happy. Again, for Montreal, yes, they did come back from 2-0 down and score those 2 late goals to salvage a point. But home wins has been a little bit of a problem for this team. I mean, this team, we know this season they've been a very good road team, but their home form has not been that spectacular. And when you're a team that is going to finish second in the Eastern Conference, which is kind of where I think Montreal most likely is going to finish, you got to be strong at home because you're going to get that home field advantage. And I know home field advantage usually means a lot to teams in the playoffs because we've seen before home team tends to win more playoff games than we see with away team. But if you don't do well at home, especially in the regular season, that home field advantage kind of doesn't really matter. So for Montreal, they definitely need to try and to be stronger at home. But for the Columbus Crew, again, coming into this game, if I would have told Crew fans that if they can get a draw out of this game, they will definitely take it because Montreal has been a very good team this season. But after that, it kind of feels like a loss, especially with the unlucky deflection. And then, of course, a moment of madness for Luis Diaz. Like, if that red card didn't happen, maybe the Crew would have able to walk away with all 3 points that would have helped them in the playoff race. But now, instead, they've now find themselves in that 7th spot. And there's going to be a couple of teams below them that are hungry to try to get that 7th spot in the Eastern Conference race. But that being said, moving on into the next match, and one of those teams that is hungry to try to get that spot is Charlotte FC. Now, obviously, Charlotte, I feel like they still need a lot of help from now on if they want to have any chances of making the playoffs. But they are definitely showing that have that mentality of not giving up and continue to fight to the time when they get eliminated. And they are also able to get the sweep over NYCFC as they were able to win 1-0 in this one. And also it feels like it's MLS 1.0 day at Charlotte in this game, as it looks like we had some football lines that is overlapping soccer dimension. Now, obviously, it is kind of a little bit frustrated that we're still kind of seeing this, because you think that nowadays, as we're into 2022 in an era where pretty much every team has a soccer specific stadium, you would not be seeing these kind of MLS 1.0 moment again. But unfortunately, that's kind of the case for a couple of these teams that are playing in non-soccer specific stadium. And apparently, from what I heard, is the reason why they did not actually remove the football lines is because the grounds crew at Bank of America Stadium had to paint those lines because it was raining during this game, and they can't paint the lines when of course the rain is happening. So that's why you saw that soccer dimension or those football lines overlapping the soccer dimension. Though I will say at least they did a good job in terms of the soccer dimension and the lines being yellow, and it was kind of easily able to see than what I've seen before, where those soccer lines are overlined with the football dimension. But still, it's not a good look, and in some way, this is something that in 2022 of MLS we should not be dealing with. Like this maybe it could be a thing that we might have to deal with in the early 2000s. But I guess again, this is why I've in a more positive way to spin it. It's kind of like a throwback game with the way that it's hard to believe what this league has come from a league that we had to deal with this kind of issue in the early 2000s, and now, at least for the most part, we don't have to deal with anymore because every teams are pretty much playing in a soccer-specific stadium. Though in the 5th minute, Melinda did struck the post on the header, but then on the very next sequence, and while Charlotte, the TV feed was still busy showing that Melinda struck the post, Danny Rios would score from Schwadetsky to make it 1-0 in favor of Charlotte. And, I wrote they didn't show the goal live because, again, they were still busy in terms of showing the highlights of Melinda. And, that's definitely not a great moment for the Charlotte TV feed. They basically had an FS1 moment there, forgetting to, just cut back to the live play and basically miss the goal there. But nevertheless, it did give Charlotte a 1-0 lead. It could have been 2-0 when Bronico went through on goal and tried to chip Johnson as he was going in on goal, but unfortunately missed that one wide. It was all Charlotte in the first half, and they were definitely looking to try to get the second goal. But Pereira did have the first opportunity for NYCFC, but he hits that one high in the 16th minute. Then Callens hits it wide from close range before Vargas hits it wide on the back post in the 44th minute, and we had to halftime with Charlotte leading 1-0. Now in the second half, it could have been 2-0 when Josviak actually struck the post from close range. I mean, that just kind of sums up Kamil Josviak's season. He has just been having no luck this season, and I don't think he actually has scored a goal so far this season. Like, you talk about a guy that cannot buy a goal and are just kind of snake bitten. That's kind of the case for Josviak. He just cannot buy a goal this season. But still, I thought it was a positive start for Charlotte again, as they were looking to try to get that second goal. Though that positive start looked like it was going to be wiped away, because in the 55th minute, their captain Christian Fuchs would get a straight red card after Fuchs basically elbowed Gray in the face there. Now, obviously, I don't know if that was intentional by Fuchs or not, but anytime when you basically put a cheap elbow in the face of your opponent, most likely it's going to be a red card, and that, of course, is the case there. But to Charlotte credit, they didn't really allow anything throughout the next 25 minutes, and that that as I mentioned, there was not much that was happening in the next 25 minutes, which really favored Charlotte because they want to keep this game tight and they don't want NYCFC to build some momentum and have that belief of getting themselves the equalizer. Though Callens did hit one right to Kalina in the 76th minute, as I thought NYCFC finally realized that they were a man up and started to show some urgency. Again, as much as I praise the fact that Charlotte does a good job in terms of shutting things down, you also got to question NYCFC. Like, they are a man up, and again, if you would just tune into this game and there was not a scoring graphics tells that Charlotte was down to 10 men, you would never notice that Charlotte was actually down to 10 men with the way that NYCFC wasn't really doing anything whatsoever. Though in the 7-minute stoppage time, Pellegrini did put it wide from close range before in the 10th minute of stoppage time, and really the last kick of the game, Morales had the one last roll of the dice on the free kick, but he puts that one high as the full-time whistle was blown as soon as that ball goes high. And in the end, for Charlotte, they're not giving up just yet. They're still fighting and trying to keep their fringe playoff hope alive by getting a 1-0 win over NYCFC. 8 shots compared to 12 that NYCFC had. Both teams had 1 shot on goal, 5 shots off target for the 6 that NYCFC had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 5 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Charlotte has in this game. And for NYCFC, it is just a complete free-fall right now. And like I said before, it's getting to a point where they're in such a bad free fall that they actually could be not playing their first round playoff game at home. I mean, you would have thought that a couple of weeks ago they were shoo in to make it to the playoffs and have a home playoff game, but now in a way where, yeah, you know, they're getting to a point where they can slip into the 5th or even into the 6th seed. And that, you know, I will say that, you know, maybe NYCFC may be just ahead enough in terms of making the playoffs, and that they're probably not going to have an FC Dallas moment like what we saw in 2017 of them being at the top and then fail to make the playoffs because they have complete free fall in the second half of the season. But still, it doesn't help the fact that they're having this free fall, and that, again, I'm going to repeat what I said before. If there is one team that is probably going to not make it out of the first round, even when they do make it to the playoffs, it's got to be the defending champ, NYCFC, as they're just life under Tati Castellanos, as what every NYCFC fear is just all doom and gloom as we head closer into the playoff time. But that being said, moving on, in the next match, we got Nashville versus the LA Galaxy, and this was also another game where, you know, coming out of this game, I don't think either of these teams will be happy with this result because, you know, for Nashville, even though they definitely did not look like they were at their best in this game, they had a big opportunity to get that 1-0 victory and really solidify themselves in terms of having a home playoff game. But then, yeah, they gave away a penalty late in this one. But for the Galaxy, you know, speaking of penalty, yes, they did get a late penalty to salvage a point out of this game, but they probably should have won this game with the way that they were by far the better team in this game. And also Chicharito, yeah, it seems like I think the Galaxy are going to stop making Chicharito taking penalty after this game. Now, in the first half and in the 11th minute, Cabral actually went through on goal, but you knew he's not going to score there because, you know, we talk about one of the most cursed number 9 in the league. Kevin Cabral is that guy, because no matter if he goes through on goal or even he has a simple tap in, most of the time it's not going to go in, and this is not a big surprise that the ball did not go in, though Willis did have to make a save there to deny Cabral as he went through on goal. Then Caceres hits it wide from the corner in the 12th minute, as I thought it was a good start for the Galaxy. They had some good opportunity to look for the opening goal, but they actually do concede in the 28th minute as Hani Mukhtar, I mean, who else? As he scored here from the spot here, and this was actually a penalty given to Nashville after VAR deemed that Williams handball that one in the box, and that as soon as Mukhtar basically stepped up from the spot, you know he's going to bury it, and he did, like I said, and that gives Nashville a 1-0 lead, and he tried to make it number 2 in the 35th minute, continued to solidify his MVP caliber season. But he puts it wide from close range, and there's no doubt that the momentum kind of started to favor Nashville because, like I said, for the first 25 minutes or so, it was all Galaxy. But after that goal, it kind of changes, and that was maybe a classic example of goals can, of course, change game. But we do head to halftime with Nashville leading 1-0, and the second half, it seems like the Galaxy regained that momentum because Ricky Puig had a couple of opportunities to begin the second half. He bends a free kick that goes right to Willis before he also puts one right to Willis again from close range. And again, it's a promising start for the Galaxy, but the question is, can they get that opportunity and finally put away their chances to get the equalizer? And it looked like they had that chance to do so in the 53rd minute as a penalty was given to the Galaxy after Shaq Moore brought down Chicharito in the box. So here comes Chicharito again, have a chance to redeem himself after just an embarrassing moment that he had in the last game of that failed Panenka. So he stepped up from the penalty spot, and yeah, Willis denied him from the spot. And it was not a great penalty either from Chicharito, and that, like I said, it's getting to a point where I'm pretty sure the Galaxy had enough of seeing Chicharito trying to take penalty and trying to slot home. And in fact, when you look at the stats of Chicharito in terms of his conversion, I think his conversion is something like 40%, and he has had at least 10 penalty kick take. That is a very poor conversion for a penalty kick taker. And again, it's kind of surprised the fact that he still takes penalty for this team. I mean, I get it. Yes, he is your captain and he is your number 9, and you usually give the penalty kicker spot to your number 9 or your number 10. But you know, you can see he is just struggling right now from the spot, and that you maybe even say that his confidence is just absolutely shot from the spot after that embarrassing moment he had in the last game. And that, yeah, yeah, this was an example of it as the game stays at 1-0. But to the Galaxy credit, they did continue to push for the equalizer. Koulibaly had a chance to do so, but he hits one right to Willis before Araujo had a long-range effort that goes right to Willis in the 70th minute. And again, the Galaxy was pressing for the equalizer. In Nashville, they were just bunkering in this game. Like, they looked like they were hanging on for dear life since the beginning of the second half. Delgado did blast it high in the back post in the 76th minute before Grindster curls it wide as he went through on goal. Costa then puts it high on the curler in the second minute of stoppage time, and you're just thinking that this looks like it's not one of those days for the Galaxy. No matter how many chances that they had in front of the Nashville goal, they just aren't clinical in terms of their finishing. But then in the 4th minute of stoppage time, they were gifted another penalty. And this time, it's Walker Zimmerman basically handballed that one in the box that gives the penalty for the LA Galaxy. Zimmerman also gets a second yellow card because of this handball. So he was giving his marching order. And in the 8th minute of stoppage time, instead of Chicharito basically trying to maybe redeem himself once again, I think Greg Vanney said that, yeah, we're not going to have a repeat of last week. We're not going to miss a penalty right at the death of the game to get a reserve. And this time he decided to trust the youngster, Ricky Puig, a chance to tie the game up. And he did exactly that. Though, not by much, though, because Willis did get a hand to it there. It wasn't really the best penalty there from Ricky Puig, but he was able to bury that one to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And that actually was the final action of this game. Like, as soon as that ball went in, the final whistle was blown. And yeah, in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw out of this game. And the shots in this one, 22 shots for the 10 that Nashville has, 8 shots on goal for the 2 that Nashville has, 7 shots off target for the 4 that Nashville has, 7 shots that was blocked for the 4 that Nashville has, and possession-wise, 68% possession compared to 32% possession that Nashville has in this game. And that, again, overall, I don't think either of these teams will be happy. You know, Nashville, this was definitely one of their poorer performance and almost a similar performance of their struggles that they have at home this season, where they just haven't got much going from most of the game. But for the Galaxy, you know, again, they were by far the better team in this one, and that if they would have converted that penalty early in this game and maybe be a little bit clinical in terms of their finishing, they could have definitely get themselves in a good position in the playoffs. In fact, I think they would have been above the red line if they actually did win this game. But instead, they still find themselves below the red line. And, you know, the good news is they still control their own destiny in terms of making the playoffs. But it's getting to a point where they got to get wins. Like, you know, you can have these games in hand over teams above them that you can overtake them if you get a win. But that's the key word: get wins. If you don't get wins of those games in hand, you're probably going to stay below the red line. And not to mention, as I mentioned with the Galaxy, yes, they do have an easy schedule remaining of the season, but let's face it, this is the Galaxy, and if you talk to any Galaxy fans, you know that there's no easy game for this team, especially the fact that on decision they have to face that team that they just never want to face in a critical game, and that, you know, Galaxy fans does not want to wait until the final day where they have to face their arch nemesis, the Houston Dynamo, to clinch a playoff position. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match, and speaking of playoffs, and certainly playoffs spots that it started to slip away from a team, that's kind of the case for the New England Revolution, because coming into this game, you know, they did have an opportunity to maybe catch up to Columbus, but most likely stay within pace of FC Cincinnati after they got their big win, which I'll talk about in just a bit. And not only they can't do that, but they took a loss in this game against the New York Red Bulls. Though for the Red Bulls, this was a huge victory because, again, this season, just like Nashville, they have really struggled at home. And knowing the fact that this is a team that maybe is going to get home field advantage in the playoffs, it is important that they need to prove that they can make Red Bull Arena a bit of a fortress, and they did exactly that in this game, getting a big win. And early on, they had an opportunity to make it 1-0 when Cáceres Jr. puts it wide from close range. But as is kind of the case for most of these Red Bulls home games, there wasn't really much that was happening in the first 15 minutes. Gustavo Bo did have the first opportunity for the rest, but he puts that one wide. And then Tokens had a long-range shot that was deflected and goes wide. Manuel then puts it high from close range in the 41st minute before Reyes had a chance to give the Red Bulls the lead, but he puts it wide on the header. and we head to halftime with the score scoreless between both of these teams, despite the fact that the Red Bulls did have a couple of opportunities to get the opener. In the second half, the Red Bulls once again started well and was looking for the opening goal, but instead, it's New England, the one that gets the opening goal, and guess who? It's Tommy Mack scoring here from Bo and Jones. Always love to see Tommy Mack gets a goal there. He's definitely one of my favorite players in this league, and yeah, he gets on the score sheet here to give the Revs a 1-0 lead, but unfortunately that lead would be short-lived because just 6 minutes later, Cáceres Jr. would pounce as he scored here from Manuel to tie the game up at 1 apiece. So certainly another good game for Manuel, who has started to get some more minutes for this Red Bulls team in these past couple of games. But Cáceres Jr. in the 62nd minute tried to score a second goal because he definitely feels it in this one, but he hits it right to Petrovic. And then it looked like the Red Bulls did take the lead in the 65th minute when Luquinhas put the ball into the back net, but apparently the goal was disallowed, and I believe this is because the free kick was taking too quickly. I mean, when I saw the replay of this game, and keep in mind, I didn't watch a lot of these MLS action from match week number 30, so I watch a lot of these highlights either from YouTube or these 15 minutes condensed highlights, but when I look at that, they didn't really show exactly why the goal was disallowed. I mean, it definitely wasn't because of offside or handball. So the only thing I can think of with the way that play comes from a free kick, it must be because the free kick was taking too quickly. And it's a shame that of course it is a case, but I'm pretty sure MLS and Pro want to make amends of what happened earlier this season in that Seattle versus Colorado match where they gave a goal for the Sounders, even though it probably should have been disallowed because the free kick was taken either too quickly or not even in the correct position. But in the 75th minute, though, the Red Bulls did have another opportunity to get a lead because they got a penalty. This time VAR deemed that Matt Camara pulled down Edelman in the box, and again, as much as I love Tommy Mack, this was definitely a classic 0 to hero moment or hero to zero moment that he had. He got the opening goal, looked like he was going to give the refs a huge 3 points, and then he basically cost the refs a chance to at least get a point in this one after he clearly pulled down Edelman in the box there, which in stepped Lewis Morgan to basically give the Red Bulls the lead, which they did which he does exactly that. I mean, he's not going to miss from the spot. He's almost automatic from the spot this season, and he scored here to make it 2-1 in favor of the Red Bulls. Farrell then hits a volley that was deflected, and it goes wide, and the Revs, they were definitely trying to push the kitchen sink because they know their playoff hope is still well in balance, and they're trying to keep pace in terms of those teams that's above the red line, but unfortunately they're unable to do so because in the end, the Red Bulls with a 2-1 win over the Revs, and the shots in this one, 12 shots compared to just 4 that the Revs had. I mean, it was not a great performance by New England. You could even say that it was a very flat performance from them. Only 1 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Red Bulls had. 5 shots off target compared to 1 that the Revs had. Both teams had 2 shots out of the block in possession-wise. 57% possession compared to 43% possession that New England has in this game. And overall, again, the Revs, they need to get points, knowing the fact that they didn't really got a lot of help in terms of teams. Well, I don't want to say they did. Well, yeah, they didn't get a lot of help because Columbus, of course, got a point even with their draw, and then as I mentioned, Cincinnati got a big victory, and maybe the only result that they kind of got help with Orlando, of course, losing their games. But again, a lot of these teams below the red line that either lost or drew. Yeah, it was not a great week for them, especially with the teams above them keep getting wins, and that's why in the beginning of the video I talked about there started to be some separation between teams that is above the red line and teams below the red line. But we'll see if that continue as we wind down the season. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 4 games I'm going to talk about in part 1 of this review of match week number 30. But moving on, in the next match is Atlanta versus Toronto FC. So as I mentioned, coming into this game, there was definitely a lot at stake in this one because, this was pretty much the ultimate desperation derby with both of these teams have very fringe playoff hope, and that, a loss in this game pretty much take themselves out of contention. And at least on the attacking front, it seems like both of these teams get the memo because, man, both of these attack was definitely going at each other in the second half. But that was kind of not the case for the defense because the defense for both teams, it kind of felt like they just gave up in the second half, and hence that's why pretty much all 6 goals in this 6-goal thriller was scored in the second half, and that second half also kind of resembling a little classic MLS dark energy that we saw in this game. Though in the first half, 8 minutes into this one, Gutman did blast it high after a great 1-2 ball there in the box. I mean, if that went in, that would have been a lovely, well-worked goal for Atlanta, and almost a shade of the old Atlanta that we've seen that used to be a dominant force on the attacking end. Though in the 12 minutes, they do have a chance to get the opening goal as a penalty was given to them after O'Neal brought down Lennon in the box. Yeah, that was not a great challenge there from Shane O'Neal. As a clumsy challenge there to bring down Lennon in the box, and it was a stonewall penalty, which Luis Araujo had a chance to basically convert from the spot, but he was denied from the spot. So this was another week where we definitely saw a couple of penalty that was denied either by the keeper or it wasn't really hit very well, and this was an example of it. I mean, it was not a great penalty from Araujo, though you still gotta give credit to Quinton Westberg making a big save there from the spot to keep this one at scoreless. And then oh god, actually I don't know why I wrote Pirate there. It's actually Perota. That is the name here. Let me just put that here. Yep. Yeah, Perota then puts it wide on the header, and you're gonna hear his name a lot in this review of this game, because he definitely had a career game in this one, to say it in an understatement way. But there was no doubt it was all Atlanta early in this game as they would continue to search for the opener. Westberg then denied Amada from close range before it looked like it was going to be a penalty for Toronto. So throughout this first half, TFC were definitely second best, but they had a shot to basically convert a penalty from the spot. But here's the problem. It wasn't given because VAR deemed that Franco did not walk down Benedeschi in the box. And in the end, I think it's the right call because there was really not a lot of contact when Benedeschi basically trying to strike this one. I mean, not only is there was not a lot of contact, if there's any contact in terms of that play there, and that I believe in the end VAR did get that one right. And yeah, we of course remain scoreless with that being not a penalty, and that also would be the scoreline heading into the second half, which heading into the second half, oh boy, this is when it gets crazy, and buckle your seatbelt, boys and girls, because this is when defense decided to check out, and the attack basically decided that they were really playing for their playoff line in this one, because it all started with Westberg denying Amada after just a WTF giveaway from Mark Anthony K. But then just 1 minute later, Peralta gets on the score sheet as he scored here from Brooks Lennon to make it 1-0 in favor of Atlanta. I mean, that was a great delivery there from the corner, which Peralta was able to hit that one in. Again, won't be the last time I'll mention that he hits one into the back of the net. But in the 48th minute, Jimenez had a chance to equalize and probably should have done, as he had a tapped in from 10 yards out and somehow could not put that one on frame. Sejdic then had a long-range shot that was denied by Westberg in the 50th minute. It was just a crazy start to the second half in the first 5 minutes. And it's going to get crazier because in the 52nd minute, TFC would equalize. It's Ayo Akinola who ties the game up at 1 apiece for TFC, though it wouldn't stay tied long because in the 62nd minute, it's Peralta again. This time he scored on the header from Sejdic and Gutman to make it get 2-1 in favor of Atlanta, but that lead looked like it was going to be short-lived again because in the 65th minute, penalty. It was given not to Atlanta. Again, I keep making mistakes when I'm writing down on the board, but it was actually a penalty for Toronto after Peralta brought down Jimenez in the box. And as much as Peralta has had a great game and a uncharacteristic game with a defender being the catalyst on the attack for Atlanta United, he also had a bad moment here bringing down Jimenez in the box, which Toronto had a chance to get the equalizer, and they do. Benedeschi puts it into the back of the net, and the game was all tied up at 2 apiece. And then in the 68th minute, on the other end, Dwyer almost retook the lead for Atlanta, but he missed a free header from close range. And again, defense was nowhere to be found. Like the amount of time that both attack was able to get through on the other end, and especially with a lot of headers being just uncontested whatsoever, yeah, it would be a big telling story in this one too, because in the 73rd minute, Thiago Amada would score from Mascara to make it 3-2 in favor of Atlanta United. And although this wasn't coming from a header, this came from an absolute banger of a goal that Thiago Amada scored. I mean, it's pretty much bangers only for Thiago Almada. This season, as much as he hasn't had the impact of a season that Atlanta is hoping for, he has definitely scored some incredible goals, and that, I think all the goals that he scored is pretty much from the outside of the 18-yard box, and he definitely struck this one perfectly, and it gives Atlanta United a 3-2 lead. And then it looked like it could have been 4-2 in the 86th minute, but Westbrook was able to deny Amada, who could have put it away for or not for TFC, but for Atlanta United. But eventually, Atlanta does put that one away. And guess who? It's Peralta. Yes, he got the hat trick as he scored from Franco and Amada to make it 4-2 in favor of Atlanta. But again, zero marking from Toronto FC. And you gotta think that this TFC defense. That guy called Juan Jose Peralta, and that guy that's been getting free header all games, have already scored 2 of them. Maybe you should think about marking him. Apparently that's not the case. I mean, it's almost like, nah, you know what? Let's just leave him wide open, even though he already scored 2 goals, and yeah, it's not a big surprise. He of course buried it in, and that, yeah. I mean, when's the last time we have seen a defender get a hat trick in a game? I mean, that is peak MLS stuff to see a defender gets a hat trick. But yeah, that's the case with Peralta getting 3 good header there, and Barrett is it in each of the time to get himself a hat trick and get his team the 4th goal, and eventually that would be enough, as Atlanta was able to outlast TFC in what was an absolute barn burner that we saw in the second half, with a final score of 4-2. Shots in this one, 27 shots compared to 8 that TFC had, 10 shots on goal compared to 2 that TFC had, 4 shots on target compared to 6 that Atlanta has, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 11 that Atlanta has, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that TFC has in this game. I mean, when you look at how Atlanta played in this game, you definitely saw a little resemblance of the old Atlanta team that we know of. And what's also interesting is they kind of did this without Joseph Martinez, which, by the way, I don't think I've mentioned it already. If I did mention the preview, he was actually suspended in this game because of something that he said with Gonzalo Pineda. Or actually, it's not just something he said. He actually clashed with Gonzalo Pineda and all. And that, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see the situation with Joseph Martinez, and that, I know I haven't been doing a News of the Week episode, but I feel like maybe I should talk about it in one of the News of the Week episode, and Joseph Martinez situation with Atlanta United, because there seems to be some toxic relationship between him and the club itself, and there could be a big question mark that maybe he could be leaving Atlanta United this offseason, which would have been unthinkable a couple of years ago. But at least for Atlanta, it seems like they respond well even without their talisman. And even Peralta, the hat-trick hero, said himself he dedicated that performance for Joseph Martinez, which that's definitely good to see the team definitely back up Joseph Martinez, but maybe not a great look for Gonzalo Pineda, and especially with the way that if there is a coach that could be on a hot seat right now, it's got to be Gonzalo Pineda, even though I know there's been talks that he is looking most likely going to be back next season for Atlanta United, which, if that is the case, then boy, if you imagine the hot seat that Pineda already had, it's going to get hotter next season if this team does not perform him. But hey, at least they got a big victory in this one to keep their fringe playoff hold. But feels like I've said this before, they need to string themselves these kind of performance consistently, because if they have any shot of making the playoffs in this one and need to overtake some of these teams, they need to keep having these performances and just pray that some of these teams above them will drop reserve. Though, unfortunately, they weren't able to rely on FC Cincinnati this week, because moving on into the next match, and, I talked about FC Cincinnati getting the win. Well, not only they got a win in this one, but they got a historic win in this one. A 6-0 thrashing over the San Jose Earthquakes in this one. Easily the most goal and the biggest win in their franchise history. And also, with this win, this is the first time ever in FC Cincinnati MLS franchise history that they're not going to finish dead last in the league, and they're not going to win the wooden spoon. Now, in the first half, 15 minutes in, Costa did put one just wide from close range. It was all Cincinnati in the start of this game, and this looked like it was a typical road game for the Quakes. I mean, it looked like they weren't going to get anything out of this one. Though they did kind of wake up in the 27th minute after Salentano denied Espinoza from close range before he denied Montero from close to in the 37th minute. Again, the Quakes kind of woke up, and they were trying to get the opening goal and forcing the Cincinnati netminder with a couple of saves. But in the 44th minute, Cincinnati would get the opening goal. It's Barrial scoring from Acosta to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. And from then on, this is pretty much where it was all Cincinnati. Because as we head into the second half, Cincinnati would take the lead early, or not take the lead, but gets the second goal very early in the second half, just 2 minutes in, as Brenner would score from Vasquez and Acosta to make it 2-0 in favor of FC Cincinnati. And I think Brenner is a great example of what happened when you actually give time to a player to eventually get into good form and started to be a lethal goal scorer in the league. I mean, remember a couple of years where there was a lot of people questioning the Brenner move, and that there was even at a point where it looked like Cincinnati was getting close to cut him in the middle of the season, but he found his form, and that really he kind of break his ice near the beginning of this season, and he has never looked back ever since. He has been worth every single penny that FC Cincinnati has paid for him, even though it was a hefty the amount that they of course paid him. And if he can continue this goal scoring threat, they can actually make a positive out that move. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of European team that is going to look to try to get Brenner during the winter transfer window, or even maybe in the next summer transfer window. But at the same time, I also thought that was typical set piece defending from the Quakes. I mean, you don't need me to talk about how they suck in terms of set piece defending, and this is an example of that. Then Marcinkowski denied Brenner, but he spilled this one right to Vasquez, and I thought Vasquez was going to put it in. Like, with the form that Brendan Vasquez has been in, you would think that he would bury that one, but unfortunately he hits that one straight to JT, so that was a very fortunate break for JT there, but not so fortunate for the Quakes just 2 minutes later, because they would concede a penalty after VAR deemed that Rodriguez did brought down Acosta in the box, which Acosta, of course, won the penalty. He took the penalty, and he scored here to make it 3-0 in favor of FC Cincinnati. And then it looked like it was almost 4-0 when Brenner... Or actually, I'm sorry. Let's take a look here. Let's see. Oh God, I kind of lost track. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. It would be 3-0 as Acosta, of course, would bury the penalty to make it 3-0 in favor of FC Cincinnati, and it looks like it was going to be 4-0, but the goal was disallowed for offside. And then I actually forgot a goal here. Yeah, I was wondering why I'm counting here, and why do I see 5 goals here? Yeah, I forgot the Yaya Kubo goal that he scored in the 76th minute when after I wrote the floodgates was blown open for the Quakes. Again, please excuse the fact that I kind of lost track how many goals FC Cincinnati scored in this one, and how the Quakes basically decided to stop playing. I mean, it was just a floodgate. Like, this performance really reminds me of how the Quakes played back in 2017 near the end of the season, when under Chris Leach tenure, whenever they play on the road, and once they capitulate in the second half, they really capitulate. And this was similar with the way that they just gave up goals for fun. And like I said, I do apologize if I forgot to put Yaya Kubo's goal. And he's another guy that he has not scored in a long time. I mean, I think it's 2020 was the last time he have scored a goal, so he of course got on the score sheet from Brenner to make it 4-0 at that point. And then it would be 5-0 after Brenner basically buries it in the 90th minute. And he had another chance to score, or he had a chance to score a hat-trick in the 4th minute of stoppage time after a penalty was given to Cincinnati as Nathan brought down Santos in the box. Now, I will say this, I think that was a soft penalty. I didn't think that there was a lot of contact in terms of that, but, I'm not really going to complain too much, because of the way that, penalty or no penalty, this game was just going to be an embarrassment for the Quakes either way. And, it was given a penalty, which Brenner basically steps up. I mean, you knew that he was going to step up here from the spot to try and complete his hat-trick, and he does, as he scored here in the 5th minute of stoppage time, as the final score of this game, 6-0 in favor of FC Cincinnati. the shots in this one, 20 shots compared to 9 that the Quakes had, 10 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Quakes had, 5 shots off target compared to 2 that the Quakes had, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that the Quakes had, and possession-wise, 48% possession compared to 52% possession that the Quakes has in this game. And I know, this is against the Quakes, and again, when you play against this Quakes defense, especially when that defense decided to not show up at times, which they definitely was in this one, it might mean nothing, but still, it's impressive for Cincinnati, and especially a team that, they have put some impressive performance at home before, most noticeably getting an impressive 3-1 win against the Philadelphia Union, but, they've also had times where they have kind of struggled, especially against teams that they should be beating at home, but this was not one of them. I mean, they absolutely put the Quakes to its mercy, and that, this is a team that, under Pat Nolan, even though I know they still have some work to do in terms of making the playoffs, that is definitely a possibility, because they're now up to 6 in the standings, and as long as they can continue to get some result, especially maybe get some more home points and even get road points, which is something that they've done so well this season, this is a team that could make the playoffs. And who would have thought that was going to be the case in the beginning of the season? I mean, I said with Cincinnati in the beginning of the season, I thought they were gonna just chase to be a respectable team. Never in my wildest dream I thought that they would be a playoff team after this team has been finishing dead last and win the wooden spoon 3 years in a row to start their tenure in MLS. But that being said, moving on in the next match, and another team that just loves to score goals right now is the Philadelphia Union. And again, I don't think I'm that surprised that the Union was absolutely able to blow apart Orlando City in this game, because it's a combination of this Union team that is hitting on all cylinder, and it is a Union attack that, we rarely see this kind of attack in MLS. Like this attack alongside with maybe the LAFC attack in 2019 and then the 2018 Atlanta United attack are some of the best attack we have ever seen in league history right now in these past couple of months. And that, it's not a big surprise that the Union put up a big number again in terms of the goal scoring and absolutely demolish Orlando City in this one by a 5-1 goal scoring mark. And also, as I mentioned, with the combination of Orlando City, you can clearly see they were completely hungover from that U.S. Open Cup win over Sacramento. And that goal-scoring party all looked like it started early in the 15th minute when Carranza puts it into the back of net, but the goal was disallowed for offside. But eventually, the Union would get their opening goal, though it did take a while in the 38th minute, and it kind of was a little bit fortuitous because, when this cross was coming in, it actually deflected off of Matinho, and it was just kind of one of those kind of unfortunate moments where the cross was deflected and it basically gone over the head of Stade higher and into the back of net. But that's kind of the thing that the Union is, and I mentioned, good team, they create their own luck, and that's kind of the case in this one with how hot that the Union is and that they've been a free scoring team. It's not a big surprise that one would somehow find a way in the back then, even in one of the most weirdest way to do so. And yeah, the Union were able to make it 1-0, and then it would be 2-0 in the 43rd minute as Michael Root would score from Gastek and Flock, and you just feel like, yeah, this is going to get ugly, because, we know that this Union team, if they can score goals quickly, it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 in a matter of time. And that, as I said, the hungover was real or the hangover was real for Orlando, and you just fear that this could get ugly for them, and that the Union was going to absolutely thrash them in this one. In fact, as we head to halftime with the Union having a 2-0 lead in the second half, that is exactly what happened, because a penalty was given to the Union after VAR decided to stick with the original decision that Stade Higher brought down Uru after spilling the ball. Now, this is also another one that I kind of question, and one that I don't think they got this one right, with the way that, yes, Stade Higher didn't really do a good job in terms of catching this one and kind of spills it, but at the same time, I don't think there was a lot of contact when he brought down Uru in the box, but nevertheless, the VAR feels like there wasn't enough to overturn that call, gives the penalty to the Union, which they could take advantage, and guess who took advantage? It's Daniel Gastek. He's another guy, along with at least 3 Union attack. Like I talk about right now, there's like the big three-head monster for this Union team: Gastek, Carranza, and Uru. These three guys, they just cannot stop scoring, and there's no reason why this team is basically averaging like 4 goals every single game. But he scored here to put it 3-0 in favor of the Union, and it could have been 4-0 if Stade didn't deny Uru and his second goal, but eventually it was 4-0 when Bedoya actually scored from Wagner and Martinez, but this would maybe be a costly goal for the Philadelphia Union because Bedoya did kind of have to be subbed off of what seems like an ankle injury, and when he basically dived to hit that one and land on the ground, he definitely landed awkwardly, and he immediately grabbed that left knee. And anytime when you see a player fall on the ground and they immediately grab their left knee, whether they score or not, in this case, of course, he scored, that is not a good sign. And you just hope for the Union that it's not a serious injury, because Bedoya, as much as I know the goal scoring of this team is huge, losing Bedoya, the captain and the leader of this team, is definitely going to be a bit of a blow for the Union. So we'll see whether if this is going to be a serious injury or not. But there was then a chaos in the box after Stade denied McGlynn, but again, he allowed a juicy rebound. This has been the problem for Stade in this game, and also the reason why he's not a regular starter, because he had a lot of shaky moments in this one. He allowed a big rebound there, and there was actually 3 Union players that could have capitalized on it, but unfortunately they weren't able to do so. But in the 75th minute, the clean sheet was ruined for Orlando City as or the clean sheet was ruined for the Union and for Andre Blake after Pereira would score from Urso and Matinho to make it 4-1 in this game. But that definitely gave the Union maybe some sort of energy. The fact that, yeah, we conceded a goal, but we got to make sure we got to score number 5. And they did do so in the 87th minute as Jack Elliott would score from Wagner to make it 5-1 in favor of the Union. And it just shows you how the Union is a free scoring team. Jack Elliott is not a guy that usually is a goal scorer. I think this season he's not got like 4 goals so far. That's like more than ever that he has scored in maybe the past 3 or 4 seasons he's been with the Union. I mean, literally everybody is scoring for this team right now. And yeah, I mean, in the end, another thrashing that the Union has over Orlando City. Like, if you put this team right now in the playoffs, and if the playoffs started right now, oh boy, I wouldn't bet against them or potentially be the favorites and win MLS Cup, because they are just absolutely unstoppable right now. And again, in a league like MLS, where it feels like we always seen there's times where teams go through a bit of a bad run of form and they kind of dropped off a little bit. That has not been the case for the Philadelphia Union. And even when I make that video talk about their dominance, and sometimes when I make a video about a team good form, maybe I have jinxed it, that's not been the case. I mean, they're still scoring goals, and they're still winning by a 3 or 4 goal margin. So it just feels like this has started to align to be a decent, not only a decent season, but probably a record-breaking season for this team. And yeah, I mean, again, I think it is pretty clear in the East right now, if the Union can continue the form that they're in, I don't think anybody can stop them in the Eastern Conference right now. But in the end, as I said, it's a 5-1 win that the Union has against Orlando City. And the shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 9 that Orlando City has, 11 shots on goal compared to 2 that Orlando City had. Both teams had 5 shots off target. Both teams had 2 shots on his block, and possession-wise, 48% possession compared to the 52% possession that Orlando City has in this game. And Orlando just got to have to move on. I mean, you knew that they had no shot coming into this game, especially after getting hung over from that U.S. Open Cup win. So they just need to refocus in the next game and trying to get a big win so that they can get into a spot where they're getting close in terms of clinching for those playoff chances. But that being said, moving on into the last game of this review, we have Inter Miami versus the Chicago Fire. And I gotta say, if Inter Miami does not make it to the playoff this season, they would definitely rue their road form. And maybe of them started the season so poorly as one of the reasons why they're not going to make it to the playoffs, because, man, this team just simply cannot win on the road. And I know winning on the road is not easy in MLS, but, if you're going to make it to the playoffs, especially with this season, it's probably the hardest path to make it to the playoffs. You got to at least get some road points. And this was a great opportunity to do so against a struggling Chicago team. But when I look at how this game plays, it doesn't feel like Inter Miami is a team that is even ready to make a playoff push, because the Fire was by far the better team in this game. Now, in the first half, just just first of all mention that this game, of course, once again is played at SeatGeek Stadium. Again, I think the reason why is because the Bears was playing in the very next day, and that was also raining the very next day when the Fire, of course, plays. So you knew that no, they weren't going to find themselves in the same situation that Charlotte FC had to dealt with earlier today. So they decided just to play at SeatGeek Stadium, which I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, it is a bad idea in a way where there's a reason why the Fire decided to move away from Bridgeville, and that place is definitely, even though it is definitely a better stadium in terms of viewing experience, yeah, it's just way too far away from the Fire core fan base. Though I will say the attendance of this game was pretty good. I mean, there was actually a lot of fans in this one, definitely above average to games that have seen the Fire play at SeatGeek Stadium. And I also feel like in the end they might as well just kind of do this, especially in the future too, especially still trying to figure out whether or not if Soldier Field is actually their permanent home, or they're going to actually build themselves another soccer-specific stadium. Though, that being said, in the 12th minute, Sekulic did struck the post from a tight angle before Duran had a shot that was deflected wide, and then Shaqiri also had a shot that was deflected wide. And that kind of set the tempo of how this game would turn out, because the Fire, from minute one, they were definitely up for it in this game. It was a promising start for them to try to get the opening goal. And they do. In the 40th minute, John Duran would score here to make it 1-0 in favor of the Fire, before Taylor had a one-hopper shot right to Slolinas. That was really the first chance that Miami has, and little do we know, one of the rare chances that Miami would get throughout this one. Then in the second half, as we, by the way, head to halftime with the Fire leading 1-0, Duran looked like he was going to get his second goal, but he hits that one right to Marsman. This was definitely a great game for John Duran, who looks like he maybe earned his spot back after Shabilko. Seems like he's now find himself back on the bench after he's been kind of struggling in these past couple of games. And once again, the Fire, I thought they were the better team. And again, Miami, they just don't look like a team that know that their playoff hope is still hanging in their balance. I mean, they were very flat coming out of the gate, just like for the majority part of the first half. And it's not a big surprise that the Fire eventually take advantage of their dominance, as in the 64th minute, Xherdan Shaqiri, coming back from injury, he scored here from Mueller to make it 2-0 in favor of the Fire. It could have been 3-0 when Mueller curled one just wide from close range. But then in the 76th minute, a lifeline was given to Miami, because Navarro made a really dumb challenge on Pozuelo in the box, which unsurprisingly it was given a penalty, which Higuain was able to bury that one to make it get 2-1 in this one. And you're thinking, well, it looks like maybe there's some hope for Miami. I mean, despite they look like absolutely, or they look absolutely terrible throughout this game, and that there was that hope seems like it was dim for the majority of the game. Maybe they can. No. In the 87th minute, John Duran would put away this game as he scored from Navarro to make it 3-1 in favor of the Fire. So, Navarro making amends of that mistake that he made earlier, or just 10 minutes ago, to get on the assist chart. And John Duran again continue his case that he wants that starting number 9 spot back from Shabilko. But in the end, the Fire with a big 3-1 win over Inter Miami, even though again I don't know if they're just way too far out of the playoffs so they with any chances of climbing back in the race. But at least it's a good win for their fans, as I mentioned, they get a 3-1 win in the shots in this one. 12 shots compared to 7 that Miami has. 3 shots on goal compared to 4 that the Fire has. 2 shots off target compared to 3 that the Fire has. 2 shots on block compared to 5 that the Fire has. And possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Inter Miami has. And like I said, for Inter Miami, they got to get role points. If they don't get role points, I don't think they're going to get it done, especially with the team above them getting victory, and they weren't able to do so. Yeah, those playoff hope looks like it is slipping away. And that I will say that, the good news I will say with Inter Miami is that I think they do have a couple of home games, and I think the next game against Columbus might decide their playoff hope, because that is a game where if they want to have a chance to catch up to teams that they might be fighting for playoffs, Columbus is definitely one of those teams that they can potentially catch up. And knowing the fact that they're facing head-to-head next game, which, as I mentioned before, yeah, that's a huge game. They need to win that game if they want to make it to the playoffs this season and keep their playoff hopes alive. But that being said, that is pretty much it for the review of all 8 of these games. As always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 8 games that happen in terms of the Friday and Saturday action. And like I said, I'm splitting the review into 2 parts because there's no way I'm doing a 14-part game review. That's going to take way too long. But if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below, and make sure you leave a like and smash the subscribe button. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.